We have learned through the last few weeks of this course that to be culturally responsive in our teaching is not only to integrate heritage, but to also be responsive in our units based on our location and where our students come from. One of the reasons for which Alaska was settled prior to statehood was the vast amount of untapped land prime for farming. For this reason, we chose a farming unit integrating science and business to be considered primarily in the Mat-Su Valley. Palmer is an original homestead town and still has many farms. With the given background in mind, this unit could also integrate history. We have identified 5 standards from each business and science that this unit could cover, but we won't bore you with those.
Our unit learning objectives are an understanding of specific daily concerns of farm production, an understanding of how climate and environment affects farming production, and knowledge of the scientific processes and business practices involved in farm production. The unit's lessons include photosynthesis, climate, soil science, supply and demand, markets and prices, transportation of food, and farming resources.
We have identified the following words for the initial vocabulary: production, processing, distribution, marketing, markets, supply, demand, resources, chlorophyll, glucose, oxygen, carbon dioxide, cellular respiration, nutrients, composition, aeration, minerals, climate, fertility, and erosion.
Our big idea questions are: what specific concerns do farmers have to address on a daily basis? How does climate play a role in farming? What are the scientific processes involved with growing crops? And what business knowledge is needed for farmers to be successful? We want our students to be able to describe where their food comes from and what goes into the production of that food, gather environmental data to build a knowledge base that contributes to the development of questions about where their food originates, describe the laws of supply and demand as they relate to farming and the competitive market of food and groceries, demonstrate an understanding of the scientific process by identifying and differentiating fact from opinion by asking questions, observing, and classifying information about the science and economics of farming. Describe the resource costs of farming and what goes into a farm in order to produce the crops. Identify the environmental resources required for crop production and the process of crop growth, specifically describing photosynthesis. Identify the environmental differences in geographical climates and the crops each area produces. For instance, if the students were given a particular crop, to describe where you would grow that crop and why. And to obtain a general knowledge of the process involved in the food they commonly eat. Here's a sample from a lesson we would teach about mapping your food. Our lesson today is to incorporate everything we've learned thus far about farming and where we get our food. Pick your favorite restaurant, either locally or in your hometown or someplace you have visited. Then think about your favorite dish or food you've had at that restaurant. What ingredients go into your favorite dish? List these ingredients. Lastly, consider what regions of the United States or the world your favorite restaurant would have to get all the ingredients for your favorite dish. For example, if your favorite dish was spaghetti and meatballs, think of the grain for the noodles, the tomatoes and spices for the sauce, and the meat and spices for the meatballs. Next to these ingredients, list where they come from. Are any of these grown locally? Are any of them grown in Alaska? Are any of them grown outside of Alaska? Are they grown outside of the United States? Once you've completed the provided worksheet, on another sheet of paper, using the markers provided, create a map of your meal. This map can be as small as you need it to be to fit all of the different locations your ingredients come from. It could be as small as the state of Alaska or as large as the world. Consider the method of transportation needed to get your food from where it's grown or harvested to your plate at your favorite restaurant.